The U.S. has used counterinsurgency strategies, also known as coin, for decades to destabilize governments and other nations. Here are 3 key ways the U.S. has historically asserted its control over natural resources and ensured its geopolitical dominance using coin strategies and tactics. As part of counterinsurgency or coin strategy, an invading nation will first use media campaigns, propaganda, and disinformation to undermine the legitimacy of the targeted nation. The aggressor will attack and vilify leaders. They will call in to question the validity of key national institutions. This information warfare softens the proverbial ground. It is an early attempt to convince enough of the target population that their own nation's institutions, culture, economy aren't real or are broken. We have seen Russian President Vladimir Putin do this in the lead-up to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Putin disparaged Ukraine as not being a, quote, real country, unquote. In the same way, members of the Trump administration have been sharing messages that Canada is not a, quote, real country. Here's an example from Elon Musk, himself a Canadian citizen. Next, another nation will sabotage the target nation's key industries, supply chains, or economic support withdrawal. The armed blockades of Canadian trade routes and the occupation of Ottawa, Canada's capital, cost the Canadian economy an estimated $5 billion in lost economic revenue. Here are some of the weapons and ordnance seized at the Coutts border blockade in Alberta. Here's an image of a Freedom Convoy protester stockpiling gasoline, mere steps from the Parliament buildings in Ottawa. Each of these protests were funded by both regular Americans and Republican politicians. And this brings us to the final step of some of the early coin strategies used by the American government throughout its history. The U.S. has a long history of exploiting internal divisions with targeted nations to encourage or help coordinate mass protests, strikes, or civil unrest. The occupation of Ottawa lasted nearly a month and shut down both government and business operations in our national capital. We can see here an example of a powerful GOP politician egging on, encouraging, and helping to fund the Freedom Convoy protests. This is Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General, threatening GoFundMe for stopping American donors from funding the violent protest movement in Canada. The Freedom Convoy was encouraged by Senator Ted Cruz, Fox News, and Donald Trump.
For the Freedom Convoy, the truckers in Canada.
Right-wing media outlets in the U.S. are embracing Canadian protesters.
On your bingo card, I did not have Canadian truckers on my bingo. But there they are, and God bless them.
God
stand
bless
beside them, and we're all truckers. And I hope something similar comes about in the United States.
And at last week's Donald Trump rally, supporters were more than happy to speak with us when we identified ourselves as a Canadian news crew.
Canada needs to stand up for their freedoms. The mandates, they're total bull.
Yay, truckers! Woo! Republicans eyeing a run to be the presidential nominee in 2024, including Donald Trump, are lining up behind this cause.
The Canadian truckers, you've been reading about it.
And crying foul over GoFundMe's initial decision to shut down the fundraiser, make people apply for refunds, and give any leftover money to a verified charity of the organizer's choice.
I sent a letter to the Federal Trade Commission asking that the FTC open an investigation into GoFundMe.
GoFundMe backtracked and is completely refunding the money. But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis tweeted a promise to investigate these deceptive practices. The Republican Attorney General from Texas also tweeted he's assembled a team to investigate their potential fraud and deception. Texas donors will get justice. A new Christian-based fundraising site has stepped in to process donations. Exactly how much money is coming from the U.S. remains unclear, though Ottawa police previously acknowledged the impact.
We are now aware of a significant element from the United States that have been involved in the funding, the organizing, and the demonstrating.
Trump flags have been spotted in Ottawa. Democrats say this is the former president's influence flowing across the border.
The U.S. has been interfering in the Canadian business sector and in our politics for some time, using coin strategies and tactics. The stakes are high and Canada's survival is at stake. The more you understand about coin and how America destabilizes and undermines nations, the better prepared you will be. Share these tactics with your friends and family. Be aware of political leaders and media influencers who have a clear pro-American agenda. Be careful, Canada.